I want to react to this video. This man is so far, right? This guy is his channel is Ask a Brother, right? Ask a Brother. He so far, right? The clips, the videos I've seen this man, I've found this man very logical, very sensible, very articulate, a very great speaker. Okay, very intellectual speaker, and I found a lot of his takes very sensible and logical. And he's a therapist, which I have my gripes about therapists. I was recently debating a therapist, or going back and forth with a therapist, on social media. So therapists are very, I don't like therapists, but regardless, I definitely will talk about that, right? I will make a video and talk about my whole thoughts on therapy or therapist. So, but I will give credit where credit is due. Yes, I'm pissed about the Jubilee thing. I'm definitely pissed at the Jubilee thing. But tell me, right? I do want to react to some Jubilee video. Would you guys be fine with just the audio? I don't know. I don't know. I don't know if that's going to be a good thing or not, especially particularly live. But no, I don't know. Who knows? Anyway, like I said, I want to check out this brother out. Right? He is a really amazing so far. Right? So far, the content I've seen of this man, a really decent, intelligent man. So let's check it out.
Reaction when you saw the show Adolescence, which is like based in self-censor?
I understand why it's extremely appealing. I understand why it's going viral. I understand why I believe it's the third most watched show on Netflix history after being out for such a short amount of time, which is crazy. But it's wildly off in most ways in which they try to categorize what's actually going on. I'm being honest with you. And the problem with it is several things. But the first is they clearly did not use an expert on incel culture. Any expert go on YouTube when you get the chance and type in incel experts review Adolescence, and see all the data they have in comparison to how the show tried to cover it to a degree. And it was only 4 episodes, so there was only but so much, of course, that they could do. But I'm going to tell you one thing that I loved and I think they did get right. And it was very subtle, and I don't know if people actually picked it up enough. The first is when the 2 detectives were walking through the school.
Yeah.
And they're trying to engage with the students, and it's very clear, like they're just missing it. Students aren't saying anything. Nobody's really wanting to work with them. Like they're just getting all this resistance. They're not really getting anywhere in terms of their investigation. And the lead detective, after he talks with his son, and his son talks about the red pill, and he's asking his son, "Did you see the Matrix?" And his son's like, "What's the Matrix? Like, what are you talking?" Like, and they captured the confusion of people who aren't in it.
Yes.
Don't do this for a living, who aren't psychologists, who aren't psychiatrists, who aren't in mental health, who aren't in these spaces. Even people who are talking about it all the time. If you're not in it, you don't actually get it. When I talked about that mountaintop thing, you don't know what it's like to be considered invisible and useless to both men and women. You don't get it.
Oh, that was powerful. That was powerful. That is the issue and Wonder said it, right? He's actually understands the problems of average men. A lot of men feel invisible, feel useless to everyone. They view themselves, they view it as they are useless and invisible to the world. This is a thing where I honestly believe incel culture, incel men, they're not just depressed about women. These are men that typically have no male friends themselves. Okay? The only male friends they have are other male friends that don't have male friends, right? The only friends they have are just other men that have no friends themselves. And they are friends with these men online. So you don't get solid support or any kind of thing. So that line was beautiful. You ever notice how so many red pill creators advise all men to level up into the top 20% when that's statistically impossible? There always has to be exactly, right? You ever notice how so many red pill creators advise all men to level up into the top 20% of men when that's statistically impossible? There always has to be average, right? This is why I will stand on this. I will never, ever tell men, okay, to get to the top 20% of men. This is why I've always said this. I want men to push themselves to be the best version of themselves. Okay? The best version of themselves. A man that you are happy with, a man that you are content with. All right? My happiness, the best version of myself isn't a man that's a millionaire, isn't a man that's like six pack, isn't a man that is like have dozens of women by my side, isn't a man that's, like alpha man, top, like, oh my God, I'm leading hundreds, thousands of men. No, that isn't the best version of myself. Because my goal isn't to be a top 20% of man. Right? This is why I'm not like out here, I'm trying to like learn how to like be a player, how to get 50 women. I'm not. That's not my goal. Right? My goal isn't to like somehow to become the player, the bad boy. That's not my goal. My goal isn't to be like highly desired by women. That isn't it. That doesn't necessarily bring me happiness. That doesn't necessarily make me proud of who I am. Being the best version of yourself is how you see yourself, how you see your life being happy, being content. Okay? Being the best version of yourself doesn't mean that, what you see on Instagram of men like having dozens of women, having Lamborghinis, having Ferraris, going jet setting, having billions, millions of dollars in the bank account. That isn't the thing. As an average guy, I want an average woman. And yes, and that's part of it, right? Being the best version of yourself can be an average guy, but a good average guy, a guy that you are proud of, a guy that, you know what, you want an average woman, right? You want an average woman as well. I promote being average is good. Being an average man is a good thing. This is the thing where I'm not looking to be a top 20% of man, top 20% man, so I can get the models, right? The 8s, the 9s out there. No, that's not what I'm looking for. That's not what will make me happy, right? If I can reach to the top 20% of men where I can get my big booty chick, right? Or my Instagram model girl. No. No. I think we need to reevaluate red pill content. We do not need to promote men to be in the top 20%. We do need to promote men being the best version of yourself. And the best version of yourself is that you are happy, you are content with your life, right? Desiring superficial things doesn't necessarily bring you happiness, right? We've seen this plenty of times before, right? The millionaires, the billionaires, they're not always happy. They're not always content with their life. So money doesn't necessarily bring you that level of happiness. But I would say this, stability, right? Being able to provide for the woman you love, which would equal money, is a good thing.
You don't know that feeling. I don't care if you're the most unattractive. If you saw the show, what was it? My 400, 500 pound life or something like that, with these people, where they got to get cranes and break down doors to move these people. Why all these women got men?
What? Great question. I've always
because still, as a woman by default, she's still going to have value with some man.
Wow.
But at a certain age.
She's still, but again, if the first 60 years of you living, you're seen as valuable to somebody, that matters. Versus in comparison, you can go your entire life and be considered a...
Exactly. Right? This is why I say to be the best version of yourself. Because if you're the best version of yourself, all you need is just to be valuable to one person, just to that one person that you value and values you. That is it. I'll tell you this, right? I'm the type of man, I don't really want one night stands. I don't want meaningless sex. I don't need or want to have maybe you could call me gay, right? I'm not desiring having 100 women body count. I'm not desiring to have a high body count. I'm not desiring to every night a different woman. I'm not desiring that. I actually like a long-term stable relationship, right? I like to be with one woman I love and I know she loves me. Maybe I'm a simp, right? Maybe I'm a simp in that category, but I don't view that as being a simp. But we don't promote that enough in the men's content, right? You don't have to be, right, the players and bad boys. Because honestly, that being the players and bad boys, I think that comes from a world of trauma. That's just my opinion, because it's a detriment to you, where you need to desire different women every day, right? You need to desire different women every week. It's like you're never satisfied. I don't need 3, 4, 5 women, hanging on to me, because honestly, one woman is enough headache, right? One woman is enough for me. One woman is more of a headache for me. So, you don't need to go crazy. That's my opinion.
Genetic dead end.
That is actually so interesting.
Yeah.
So on the show, these are lead detectives whose job it is to learn, to question, think of things on multiple levels. And they had no idea that there's a subculture
Yeah.
of bullying and ostracization
Mm.
amongst not just boys doing this to each other, but on social media,
Mm.
other people who you may not even know also saying things about you, also targeting you. And it's not just the bullying and the tactics, it's also the shaming, it's also the rejection, it's also being seen as invisible. And it's a very, very, very hard.
Wonder, I love it. Exactly. Now, like you said, right? I never believed it when certain guys saying wanting multiple women at once is natural. I say this: men want to have sex. That is natural. Men want to have sex. Men don't want the headache of dealing with so many women, right? I think average men, this is a thing where average men want to get married. They just don't want the fear of being hurt. Men are human, right? Men have feelings, right? Men have feelings. Men are human. Men just don't want to be hurt. Men don't want divorce. Men don't want to go to this level of commitment of marrying a woman, because men want marriage. And then having her break your fucking heart. That's the thing. Men are very, in my honest opinion, average men. We're not talking, I've said this before, I don't gear my content to the top tier men, because I'm not a top tier man. I'm an average man with an opinion. That is it. I'm an average man with an opinion. So I gear my voice, my content to average men that agree or see my opinion. And I believe average men, we want relationships, right? We want to be with one woman that loves us and we love. That's what average men desire.
It's a very hard concept to try to describe to people who, for most of their life, or they have yet to experience what it means to be invisible since they were 14 years old.
Right. Yeah.
They don't know what that feeling is. And I thought the show did a really good job of, the parents didn't see it.
Yeah.
The detectives didn't know it. But the second piece I thought they got really great was when they found out, oh snap, the kid's being targeted, the kid's being bullied. The victim apparently was a contributing member of this, and she was leading the charge. And the things that she would say and the viciousness of how they were treating this boy, I'm not going to say what he did was justified. Spoiler alert for those who didn't watch the show. If you didn't, it's your fault by now.
Yeah, exactly.
But the callous response that the woman investigator had when he tried to bring it to her attention, like, I think there's more that's going on with this case. And she said, I just want the attention to be on the victim, on the girl. And what I would suggest is there were two victims. It's just that one died.
Right.
One lost their life and one lost their freedom potentially for the rest of their lives. And what happens is that
we never talk about this. We never talk about this, okay? And I always like to bring this up. 70% of one-way domestic violence, right? 70% of one-way domestic violence, i.e. one person abusing the other person and the other person not retaliating, or the other person who didn't do anything, right? Didn't do anything. One-way domestic violence is committed by women against men. Understand that, okay? 70% of one-way domestic violence is committed by women against men. Majority of domestic violence is usually both people are abusive to each other. The only thing is that when men are abusive, you see the results, right? So let's say they're both abusive to each other. A woman is hitting on a man. But guess what? That man hitting on that woman, which one do you think you will see? Which one you will think you'll see? So, yes, that man is being abused. She's also being abused. But her abuse is more visible, while his is not. So, in those regards, they're both victims. They're both the abusers. But like in his situation, yes, you only notice the one that is killed or the one that is a visible victim. We never care, okay, the abuse that men get. We don't care. We don't care if men get verbally abused, physically abused. We only care because we see the abuse that women receive, right? The visible abuse. So like his situation, like he just talked about, right? The incel boy, he's a victim too. But the woman that got killed, yes, she's a victim as well. But because she was killed, you could see the visible victimhood. That is what the world cares about. This is why the world will never care about the issues of men, because men have to take it silently.
small little snippet is an example of the larger pool of what's going on. Yes, he did something wrong. Yes, he's the murderer. Yes, he needs to be incarcerated. I agree with all of that, obviously. But the environment that created someone like that,
Mm.
we're so oblivious to the realities and perspectives of what young boys and men are going through. You don't get it that for many men, they don't see feminism. Doesn't matter if they don't have the great working definition of it, their experience of all these people who claim that identity. You don't actually care about equality. That's a woman advocacy movement, or at least was up until recent debates about who can or can't be a woman. But prior to this debate, it's always been, for many people, and particularly many men, it's more so a women advocacy program, which is totally fine.
Mm.
But
I've said this before. Feminism has never been about equality. It has never been about equality. In my honest opinion, the beginning of feminism was about, it was stupid. It was about, feminism was pushed. So again, rich men pushed feminism. Rich men created feminism. Why? Because rich men, the top tier wealthy men, wanted the workforce to expand. They wanted the workforce to expand and the wage to go down, right? The bigger the workforce, the less you have to pay. The bigger the workforce, the more bodies, right, you have to do shit with. So that was the beginning of feminism. But nowadays, feminism is about power. Women want power. They don't want equality.
You cannot say that you care about men and that you're advocating for equality. And I'm going to list these things off, and I wrote them down to make sure I don't forget it. You don't care about mandatory paternity tests. You don't care about paternity fraud. You don't care about male suicide rates. You don't care about equalizing hard, laborious jobs outside. You don't want to equalize that. You don't care about what happens to people that are falsely accused, which is almost always exclusively men. You don't actually care about the declining school performance, the rise in ADHD diagnosis, and the psychiatric medication that comes from it. You don't care about the lack of homeless shelters for men. You don't care about the weaponization of the family court, the equal custodial rights, reproductive say for men, reduction in child support and alimony, pathologizing of just men and masculinity in general, negative attitudes towards even men that want a nuclear family. You don't think or care about any of these things.
I love that. 100%. This is what I'm talking about. This mindset is why I started my channel. This mindset is why I started this channel. Nobody gives a shit about men's struggles, men's issues. Nobody cares. Not even other men. So I wanted to take a stand. I wanted to have a voice where I wanted to promote what I believe are the struggles of men. Because I've been there. So I don't want to stay quiet while I see my brothers struggling. I see my brothers suffering. I see my brothers unheard. No, I don't support that. And this is why I wanted to create my content. This is why I wanted to promote what I wanted to promote, because what I believe in. Men literally have less rights than women in 2025. Men have zero reproductive organs rights after sex occurs. And men have to deal with selective services. Yeah. You think this is a thing where I think it's funny that I also want to put the narrative that men are always labeled as the terrible. Men are all. I like to always talk about like how society labels men. That no one cares about that. No one cares. See, we care that, okay, don't stereotype black people. Black people are not a monolith. Yet it's fine for us to stereotype men. It's fine for us to label men a monolith. Right? It's fine for us to, group men together and say that men are terrible. Right? Like I said, I was arguing with this therapist saying that, whatever, 70% of violent perpetrators are men. So what? 70% of violent crimes, right, are committed by men, but majority of those violent crimes are against men. And even though majority of violent crimes are committed by men, it doesn't mean majority of men commit violent crimes. But no, people want to use that to label men as terrible, to label men as violent, label men as just disgusting creatures. We don't understand how society views men. That is part of men's issues, right? Being a man, like a boy, right? A boy, we are automatically viewed as disgusting, as trash, as dangerous, as violent, as just criminals. I literally see women, right? I literally see women saying, "Oh, I don't want a boy. If I have a boy, I want to abort it. If I had a boy, he needs to get a vasectomy." Right? It's like, seriously, the rhetoric against men is No, it's like, are you this? It's extremely disgusting. The rhetoric against men, extremely disgusting.
And I'm not even saying it's just the feminists that don't care about it.
Nobody
I'm
has.
saying most people.
Exactly. Right? I mean, it's like, seriously. I think I look at statistics. SV, right? SV. I think in a year there's about 400, right? 400,000, 3 or 400,000 of men that commit those crimes. Do you understand that there are millions upon millions of men? That's like nothing. So yes, men commit, men do terrible things, but not majority of men. It's like, it's only men that, you can use the select few to label the majority. I think that's disgusting.
Who don't do what I do don't care about this at all.
Mm.
And you're creating, and we talked about this 80-20 rule. What's happening to the 80%? You don't
Yeah.
care.
Not good.
And the beauty is, if I just get the man I want, if I just get the partner I want, if I just I don't care about what's happening with men. Let's bring the attention back to women. That's what the detective did in that show.
Right.
And that is what society in Western cultures is unfortunately like. Most people only care about males or boys or men if they are their brother, their son, or their father, or their uncle, or their close friend. This society, in the quest to be fair to women, to improve their rights, allow the worst representatives
Mm.
to take it to its furthest extreme.
Right.
When we talk so much about misogyny,
Mhm.
most women can't tell you what the term is for a strong distaste and hatred for men.
Mhm.
What's the term? What's the
Misandry.
misandry?
Mm.
Being a misandrist.
Mm.
Most men's experiences that we keep labeling as incels, we keep labeling as misogynists, their experiences in coworker situations, in the schools, dating, on dating apps, is that a lot of women are either misandrous or they're so reductionistic of men that if you don't have the money, you have no say and you need to shut up. And even if you do have the money, it's happy wife, happy life once I'm in your life. I,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
done told my wife, we joke around about it all the time. When we're amongst other couples and friends, she sarcastically say all the time, the one thing I appreciate about Jeff more than anything is he's the same exact person in home as he is in public.
I want to say that, okay? What he just said, this is my personal morality, okay? My personal principles. I hate two-faced men. I hate two-faced people, okay? Regardless of gender, but I'm just, this is my example. This is my point. I hate two-faced men. So what I promote in myself, okay? I've said this to every woman I've dated. What you see now is what you will see on my deathbed. So it's either you like me for who I am or you fucking don't. Because I don't condone lying. Right? I'm not going to lie to you. I'm not no player, right? I'm not no player. And then, I'm lying. I'm faking a good guy. And then later on, I'm cheating on you. No. It's either you like me for who I am now or you don't. Because who I am, who you see, is who you'll get. I fucking hate people wanting other people to change. Okay? I fucking hate two-faced people. I think it's disingenuous for you to show one person and then be another person. I think that's disgusting. So I'm a big supporter of men holding down their values, men having principles, men having morality. Be true to yourself. Stop it with a fake persona. I've said this before. I know my content is not going to get big because I'm not no Chad. I'm not charismatic. I'm not good with my words. I'm not funny. It is what it is. I'm who I am. So I'm not gonna, I can't change, right? I'm not gonna like wipe all this out and then like have like minimalistic, background or shit like that, or like dress in a suit, or that's not me. That's not me. And I'm not smooth with my words. I'm long-winded. It's like sometimes it takes me hard to land the plane. It's just who I am. Either you like me or you don't. If you don't, cool. But if you follow me, then it is who I am. That's who you. You're not gonna see down the road some video of me. Now I'm a misogynistic. I'm a I'm a pander. I'm a fake guy. No, what you see is what you get.
He
Right.
doesn't change.
Mhm.
So if I'm going to say no, I'm going to say no. If I'm going to disagree, I'm going to disagree. And men not going through the natural maturation process as teenagers, as early adults, because they literally don't have the opportunity to with women. We can't be shocked anymore that there's an environment that's festering of boys and young men who unfortunately have a strong distaste. And I would argue, not even for women in general, women in the Western cultures and countries.
Yeah.
This is why they're running to the other countries and cultures where men are at least still seen as valuable, relevant, important.
No, I think,
So,
yeah,
yeah,
they're all very
yeah,
good
yeah,
points.
yeah.
I think that like anything in the West, to redress any imbalance in anything, we've had to
Mhm.
go to some crazy level to the other side and
Yeah.
come to a middle thing. And why are we so surprised? Why do we have to have shows like Adolescence that, quite frankly, are pretty late in the game in
Mhm.
terms of culture? We're very late in the game. And like you said, I talk to quite a lot of my friends, who are all parents, and they had no idea I knew about it because I'm doing this podcast and I see these comments all the time, and I was very aware of it. I read a lot about it. I had no idea about it. I'm like, you have teenage children and young adult children. How do you not know? How
Mhm.
are you that ill-informed? I agree
What-
with you. To
You
me,
know
it's
what's
very,
crazy?
yeah.
I'm sorry to cut you off, but you want to know what's crazy? When you're in a market and environment where both parents got to work long hours,
Mhm.
and both parents are out of the home for extended periods of time, and both parents have to figure out so much, and you don't even have one parent that's like really super involved,
Mhm.
versus they both are kind of got 40-hour work schedules, and one may have to do additional overtime, and the cost of living is exploding. It's harder than ever before
Oh yeah.
for parents, men and women, fathers and mothers. It's a lot harder now. We are living in an area in New Jersey where our property taxes per month is the cost of most people rent across the world.
Yeah, of course.
We're women, or women, period. And you're thinking about, well, oh my gosh, this incel thing, and all these men want to farm me and hurt me and do this or do that. A huge percentage of the boys and men that feel that way, there's a reason why they're leading the statistics of being 4 times more likely to take their own life.
Right.
They're actually far more of a danger to themselves.
Than to anybody else.
Even in a relationship.
Mm.
You take a woman who's in a relationship with a man, in a relationship with a woman, her domestic violence rate is significantly higher with another woman than with a man.
Really?
DV rates are up, divorce rates are up when same-sex relationships between two women than her with a man.
I know. It's the highest divorce rate is lesbian couples.
Yeah, and so is the DV rate.
What's the
They should be having the most orgasms. That's unbelievable.
Domestic violence,
Yeah,
DV rate.
right.
Yeah. So again, the show is so popular, it's so big, probably 250,000 plus people are probably going to watch it. And now they're again adding to this narrative that the most unsafe you can be is dealing with and doing life with men or males.
Mm.
And what I'm arguing is a huge percentage of them end up taking their own life. A very, very small percentage of them, if they get successful enough, end up finding a suitable partner, or they're going abroad to find a woman who can meet their needs. So it's not to say that there's violence between men and women that doesn't exist. Of course it's a thing. All I'm suggesting is that the show, there may be ulterior motives for why the show is being pushed. And whenever politicians or celebrities or anybody who's not a normal person jumps in on a wave, always be wary of what's the thing that they're pushing and what's the policy that's going to come down as a result of this. Is this going to be a social media crackdown? Is this going to be a monitoring thing where people have to register their social ID numbers or something in order for them to even have access to a website or have access to the internet? I'm going to argue this. Prime time, it's perfect to push something like this in a political environment when Gen Z and some millennials between men and women are splitting further than they've ever been. And then you have a huge pool of women who are looking for explanations to justify why all these men are splintering off and voting differently than us, thinking differently than us, going their own way, not wanting to marry women. There's got to be some explanation for it. And it can't possibly be because of our decision-making, our hierarchy of what we're attracted to or not attracted to. It can't be us. It's got to be because they're all incels.
Right.
It's got to be because they just outright hate women. it can't possibly be because there's been an environment that's been telling them that we hate you. Can't possibly be that. It can't be society or culture or the colleges or liberal. It can't be any of those factors, or even how we treat the men who we think don't check off all our boxes. It can't be none of that. It's got to be because of this Netflix series, and now we need policy to deal with that.
Yeah.
That's the level of thinking that I want all of us to start to get better at when we watch anything on social media, anything on streaming services. Because I would argue much of the things that's impacting us and influencing the quote unquote gender war is not even coming from in here. It's coming from what we're seeing on screens and on these computers. When I walk around in everyday life, men and women still open the door for each other. A woman's in trouble, men are still going to rush to help her. A black man, a white man is hurt in some way. Whoever the race of the person is, they're still going to try to intervene and help them. I'm trying to lift a heavy box. My white neighbor going to come and lift it up. Somebody who's gay or trans, if they need help or support, it's still happening. Hate exists, I know that, but I'm telling you, the social media, the trends, what's going viral isn't actually 100% a reflection of what's actually happening most of.
I love that. And this is the thing where I've said this before. I don't hate women, right? I don't hate women. I said this. I do reaction videos. I hold women I hold women accountable for their words and actions. I don't hold all women, right, accountable because again, my sisters are incredibly smart. They're not your stereotypical, what you see online women. And it's like I don't experience like women hating on men or men hating on women like that in real life. It's not. What I hold accountable is all this hate, all this rhetoric that a lot of women and men too, a lot of these women spew online. That's where I'm gearing towards, right? I never say, oh, treat women like shit because women hate you. No, but we have to hold these actions and words accountable that we push out online. So that's what I gear towards, right? All these women want to hate on men. Well, I'm gonna talk about that. I'm going to hold you accountable for the words you're spewing, because it is honestly tiring that we keep on pushing this narrative, okay? That men are whatever. It is tiring.
Our lives. You're actually not walking around and most men are spitting at you, calling you names, attacking. That's not happening in modernity, not in mass. The majority, a huge percentage of the men that's a threat, they're arrested. They got records.
No, absolutely. Like, I think obviously social media makes it look like
Magnifies.
everyone is out to get you, and that's why we're having so many problems.
So now, Adolescence, as true as it is about exposing something that a lot of people didn't know, what's the takeaway?
That this is not, of course.
100%. I say this all the time. I say this all the time because I hear so often, oh, women are the gatekeepers of sex. And you're like, they are when they're young. When they're young, but you start to, I think women sort of 30, 35, you start to sort of, it's not that you're not attractive, but you're not attractive to the same age as men, whereas men can look up or down or along. Whereas women, the older we get, we can only look up in age or down in age. I mean, I always say to my husband, if I, God forbid we wouldn't get divorced, if we got divorced, he could find anybody of any age. And it would be a younger woman. Absolutely be a younger woman.
He said he's a lawyer, right?
Yes, he's a lawyer. He can marry who he wants.
What are we talking about here?
Exactly. No issue.
There's be a lie.
Exactly.
There's be a lie. It don't matter how he look. It don't matter how he dressed. When they hear lawyer and they hear widow, oh, he need food. He need.
Oh no, it's true. Whereas I'd have to marry an 8-year-old
For sure.
and Michael would be like,
I'm also marrying an 80-year-old, by the way.
I'm not
That's my
saying there's
plan.
anything wrong with that, but
Here she go.
but it changes. I mean, we could obviously go on forever talking to you. There's so much to talk about.
I know.
I wanted
to go back for 1 second.
Yeah.
Did you finish all of your thoughts on the cheating? Because we may have skipped a bit.
So I definitely prepped for this part because I figured this question.
Let's go. It'll be our last little segment of the show because we've already gone over an hour, which I love. But I'd love to hear your thoughts on this.
All right. So the main thing I'm going to say is I'm careful to avoid what's called a naturalist fallacy. And this is the false belief that because something is natural, it must be moral or good. So I just kind of put that out there as a qualifier with what I'm about to say. There's something called like a blank slate theory or socialization theory. And it's it's the debate about nature versus nurture. Most people who consider themselves feminists, they have a working presupposition or theory about human beings, men and women, and human sexuality. And the belief system is rooted in this. When you lean much more into nurture versus nature, anytime you see distinctions, differences, sociological reactions or responses for whatever reason between men or women, you're going to believe that you can socialize it out of them.
And
And
what do you
that's
mean by that?
what it means is if you don't believe that there's biological, evolutionary hardwiring that's built into us to be attracted to desire, to do, and behave in certain ways, you're going to believe that the sex that's not doing what you think they should be doing is because you can socialize them to now act like the other sex.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
All right. The reason why that's important with this topic and all others is because there is a version of femininity that believes any distinction, even when it comes to sex, is something that just has to be completely 100% socialized and changed out of men. And that as long as men start to behave, communicate, think, and act like women, they'll be fine.
Mm-hmm.
So when it comes to sex, they'll insist that there is no innate.
This man is mad ass intelligent. I never thought it like that, but I agree. I've said this before. How the world is right now, after feminism, okay? After feminism, the creation, the start of feminism. Everything you see, particularly when it comes to socially, right? How the dating scene is, how men and women interaction, how men are, how women are, everything you see, it is thanks to the puppeteering. Now, whether subconsciously or consciously or purposely or not, it is the result of puppeteering by women. If you think that more men are gay than ever, which I think a lot of, I don't know why, but a lot of men are turning very, I don't know. It seems like more men than ever are gay, or more men than ever are weak-minded, or whatever. I think that's the result of women. Women are trying whatever they can to change men. And we are seeing the results of women's actions, right? Of women's actions and words. How men are turning out. That is the result of women. How the dating market is turning, that is the result of women's puppeteering. Like I said, whether they purposely did it or not, it's still the puppeteering of women.
Psychological differences between men and women. They'll functionally believe that because they're psychologically the same, we should have the same expectations. This is the issue. There's physiological differences. And the physiological differences some are very minute, but then some are massive, with huge implications. These are some of the differences that I noted. And obviously, naturally, we know that there's differences between men and women: grip strength, speed, upper body strength versus lower body strength. We know this. Like, generally speaking, there's physiological differences. But there's physiological differences when sex occurs and when they have orgasm.
Mhm.
And I'm going to have a question once I list these off. And the question is this, actually: do men and women experience sex, and are the consequences they experience from said sex the same or different? These are the things that I noted that were different. Men tend to have higher sexual desire and are more accepting of casual, non-commitment based sex. Sex hormone amounts and patterns are different between male and females. The hypothalamus, which is the region of the brain involved in sexual activity, is both larger and more sensitive to testosterone.
Mhm.
Men tend to experience quicker and more intense sexual arousal and orgasms compared to women. Research shows that women's sexual desire has more variables and is influenced by factors like self-esteem, relationships, emotions, and how they feel about their bodies, the relationship, and overall emotional state. Social consequences of clear communication of their desires in the domains of sex, especially sexually. So think of it this way, because that one could be a little bit confusing. If men were bluntly or straightforwardly honest about how often they think about sex, about the different ways that they think about sex, about the different types of women that they want to experience in terms of thinking about sex, if they were honest about how they felt sexually, are they rewarded for their honesty?
No.
And then lastly,
That was quick.
reproduction evolutionary drives for men or women. You are the product of thousands, if not tens of thousands of years of one side of a person or one set group trying to survive and procreate and mate select in a certain way. And the other group, you're the product of a person who kept people who kept sowing their seed.
Mhm.
And the question is going to be like, well, wait a minute. If there's all of these evolutionary, biological, physiological differences, and men and women clearly don't even experience sex, let alone orgasms in the same way, I don't know. Actually, I do know.
I love this. It's like very intellectual, very smart. I mean, yes, the live is going. We are going long, but I wanted to watch this. So, if you guys want to see it, great. If you guys don't, I understand. It's going long. I think it's very interesting, right? This is part of me wanting to learn more, right? Understand more things. So I find it very interesting.
But I'm just saying it facetiously. I don't know that in the quest to be like men, that's actually been a net benefit to most women, especially after 40, 50 years of this experiment. That doesn't mean that men are justified to cheat. It seems to suggest that at least their biological hardwiring has designed them to better be able to be okay with doing it.
Right. I mean, I totally agree with that. Like, men are built to sex. And women
Listen,
are
we're both built to have sex, but men are better built to do meaningless sex.
right.
Right.
What came with the sexual revolution and liberation, we have to acknowledge, was the opening the door for loveless sex,
Well, men are built to populate the earth.
for commitment-less sex.
Mhm.
And men are biologically hardwired to be better built with doing that on a regular basis. And nothing feels like wrong for him to do it. He doesn't have to know your name.
Mhm.
He doesn't have to know anything about you. He just has to find you attractive. There's so many more social cues. There's so many more cues that a woman, is it safe? Is if something happens, is he going to harm me in some way? There's so many other things that's innate in there. No one had to tell her these things. And so for me, it's less about whether it's right or wrong. And it's more about, in the quest to be progressive and modern and this and that, are we ignoring biological reality at the potential risk and demise of women? I would argue that the greatest victims of this experiment that we've been doing, loveless, commitmentless sex, recreationally. Number 3 on the list is the men who can't get access to it. Number 2 on the list are women who are single and can't find a suitable partner, who are looking for long-term commitment and monogamy in a market where the men who get the options don't have to give that.
Mhm.
Number 1 on the list is children. You don't even have to be a celebrity. You have guys that look like me whose experiences with women will rival kings and monarchs from previous times before they turn 30 or 35. That's the reality. You're in a market where things are not equal. They're never going to be equal. Our equality starts and stops with our value as human beings. I'm not equal to another man. So what made you think like there's men who do way better than me, make way more money than me, is way more respected, and men that don't? We're not equal. We only are equal as human beings. Nothing else about what we got going on makes us equal. So when you try to be equal to a man and you try to dictate what's going to happen in this market, I'm going to be honest with you. You got 2 choices. Part of the other reason for why some men will cheat is because they don't have the option to do so. What's the reward for the guy that no woman is checking for? You don't have the option. You don't even have the option to cheat. No woman checking for you. You're not that attractive. You got lucky with getting with some woman who wanted to settle down or settled for you. And part of the reason why you're so faithful is because it's fairly easy when you don't have women that's constantly trying to.
I've said this before. This man is speaking facts. I believe, if not all men, majority of men are only as faithful as their options. Now, I'm not saying all men. I mean, I wouldn't even think it's all men, but I think it's a lot of men. You are only as faithful as your options. Uh, of course, there's some men that are more disciplined, more in control, but sometimes a lot of these men's discipline are not tested. Okay. Now, I'm not saying that I would cheat, but my discipline has never been tested. Who knows if Ana de Amas, right? She's gorgeous, right? The woman that's in the the John Wick ballerina movie. She's my Hollywood crush. Who knows, right? I mean, like if I was in a relationship and she hit on me, my discipline would be test. But again, it just depends on how disciplined a man is and what type of woman is hitting on him or whatever, right? But yes, A lot of men are only as faithful as their options.
Poach you and steal you from your wife or girlfriend.
Sure.
It's
What about
it's
those
not.
men who are like actively, even if they aren't like, let's say, like a man,
Mhm,
what about those men who are actively looking to cheat? And like
mhm,
cheating is hard nowadays because people consider cheating as porn. People consider cheating as
mhm.
talking to someone else on social media. There's a lot of layers of cheating nowadays.
Yeah, yeah. I would say this, and this is going to be funny because we my group we talk about this stuff all the time. As a woman, part of the reason for why it wasn't ultimately just your decision in the past was for this very reason. Because if you had to make it, let's say 100% of men cheated, 100% of men are going to cheat, have the capacity to cheat, 100%. And this question is, are you going to give one man 10 chances? Or are you going to give 10 men one chance? The amount of women who will say that they would I'm done after the first time. Every time I don't tolerate it. I don't this, I don't that. What I'm suggesting is going to sound kind of controversial. You only have three options when it comes to mates with men. The man who probably doesn't have the option to cheat, and the man who does. And the man who has the option to cheat, you have to make a decision of whether or not you're going to stay. There's men that probably will never cheat on you. They won't have the opportunity to. Ain't no women going to try. That women go give him the time of day. He stays to he plays video games all day. He don't go nowhere. He don't do nothing. He doesn't check all 8 of the 10 boxes that women are looking for. Chances are, or if he's extremely religious and extremely disciplined, and if you don't want the guy that most other women don't want, or if you don't want the guy that's ultra conservative or ultra religious, you got to deal with the men that potentially have the option to cheat. And then you have to decide between that group, is this the type of man that I'm willing to give my name to, give children to, marry, and stay with, even if something like this happens? That's the choices.
Mhm.
The guy that you're probably 99% confident won't, and the guy that may or may not, and you got to decide if you're going to stay with. What's the guy? It's going to sound horrible, but what's the man that you're willing to saddle and set yourself up with to where either he doesn't do it, if he does, you'll stay, or he does, but you'll never know or find out about it? Cheating in private.
That's the only option, Mel.
Cheating in it's cheating with play. Cheating with play. Like the whole point I'm making is a stark reality is you're in a modern world where the pool of men that you're even interested and attracted to, you have a global market of competition of women who also think he's attractive.
No, I agree. Like, it is a very weird place that we're in right now because people have so much opportunity to cheat. And in my experience, dealing with a lot of men through all ages,
Mhm.
most of them cheat. And so it is very interesting to me when I see a man who doesn't cheat or has no interest in cheating. And that was like my ex who was seriously a very kind man. And he is, if I say so myself, he is one of the top guys. He's
He's
good looking,
very
has a
handsome,
great
yeah.
job. And he had no interest in cheating. But
That's
I
'cause he
think
had you.
well, I know, obviously, but I think he's abnormal. I don't think it had anything to do with me. I think it was
It,
his.
it, it usually, listen, it usually doesn't. Because it still is his decision at the end of the day if he wants to do it, regardless of what you're going to do or not do. But you got to remember, he's still an ex.
Well, I
That
know.
didn't.
But like,
No,
yeah,
what I'm saying is that didn't help him
right,
in the grand scheme of things.
right. You're right.
That didn't ensure that you would stay.
You're right.
And that's the thing that I don't think. What's the best way to say it?
Oh, just say it anyway. We can take it.
We'll see from our
What
audience,
if
but yeah.
so many of the bad boys,
Mm.
so many of the cheaters, so many of the guys who constantly are running through women were at one time the dutiful good boy.
Mm.
A lot of them, you aren't born a bad boy. You see who gets the attention. You see who ignores you. You see what happens when you get a little taller, get a little more bass in your voice, grow a little bit of a beard, and the dynamics change.
Totally.
You see how they change towards you once they suspect or see that another woman is interested. You're seeing this stuff, and if a woman's
I'm loving what he says, right? I love him. He says, and these women's are not bad. They're letting him talk, so I love that. Amazing shit. Amazing shit. I mean, like he's talking fact. But yeah, I don't want to take all your time for tonight. So let's end it here. All right. You guys should check it out. What is it? I mean, again, Jeff James, Ask a Brother podcast. Amazing, mad intellectual. I love this how this guy talks. I love how this guy talks. Amazing shit. Please check him out. All right.